Hello, and welcome to this demo of the GCON4 MFL as a data migration tool. Before starting this video, we recommend that you also watch the introductory video so you can have a better understanding of the tool. In this video, we will show you how to use the GCON4 MFL to migrate different types of data into Business World, which can potentially save you a lot of time. Let's begin. First, we need to connect to Business World from the MFL, so we click the Connect button. Once we're connected, we click the Generate button. We select the master file for which we need to migrate data, for example, supplier. And then we can start to select the fields and tabs we want to include in our template. You can see that there are already some fields selected. That means those are mandatory fields and cannot be excluded from the data. The same happens with mandatory tabs. For example, the Address tab. Select all the fields that you want to include. For example, I want to include the VAT registration number. I also want to include the Notes field and the bank account. In the Address tab, I want to include the address, the telephone, and the email. The MFL also allows you to upload documents attached to the information you're migrating. By including the Document Archive tab in the template, you will be able to do so. The MFL will also show all the flexi groups linked to the attribute selected, so you can also include them in your template. For example, this one, and we include it in the sheet we're generating. Once you have selected everything you need, you can save your selection as a template itself. By clicking on the template option and save as, the MFL will save an XML file that you can retrieve in case you need to use the same selections later on. You can also generate a PDF file which includes the explanation and definition of all the fields and tabs of the master file selected. By clicking the Generate PDF option, it will generate a file that looks like this. You can also create a CSV template example by clicking here, which will generate CSV files with the structure that the MFL requires. We will explain this further in another video. Notice that when you selected the master file, there are some letters right next to it. That means the type of access that the user has to treat the data. For example, in this case, I have access to create, update, and read information. These accesses can be set up per user or per role in Business World. Just go to the menu-based access screen or the role user-based access screen. Go to the Web Services tab, expand the MFL Services section and the Master File section, and select the master file or the piece of information you want to provide access to. Select the role or the user and provide Create, Read, or Update access. Once you have selected all the fields you need, you can use these commands for your spreadsheet. If you want to protect or unprotect your book from changes in its structure, if you want to include sample rows or not, or if you want the spreadsheet to include accepted values or not. So for this example, I'm going to generate my template with sample rows and with accepted values. Now we just click Generate. Assign a name to your Excel file and save it, and wait for it to generate. When it finishes, open the Excel. When you open the Excel, you will be able to see all the tabs generated, including the flexi groups, and in each tab, you will see all the fields selected as columns. You will also see that the template includes 5 sample rows because I selected this option, and also an additional sheet with all the accepted values because I selected this option. In the header area of each sheet, you will also see these 2 rows. The default value row is to specify a value for all the rows. For example, in the status column, there is an n in the default value row, which means that that value will be assigned to all rows in the template. And the mandatory row specifies if the column is mandatory, blue or orange, or optional, gray. The ones that say mandatory and optional, which are orange, mean that are mandatory when uploading for the first time and optional when updating. We will also take a look at this in the next video. The columns that have a hyperlink in the name mean that have a list of values available in the accepted values sheet. For example, if I click on currency, it will show me all the accepted values for that column. Additionally, for the columns that have a hyperlink, the template validates if the value entered in the cell is valid or not. So for example, if I enter a value that does not exist, the cell will change color. So let's say I enter a supplier group that doesn't exist, or a country code that doesn't exist. This will prevent the user from specifying incorrect values in the template. The MFL also allows you to indicate multiple values for one piece of information. For example, in the Relations tab, if you have a relation that allows duplicates, you just insert a row, specify the related attribute, the value, and in the line number column, just increase the number starting on 0. It works the same way with table type flexigroups. For example, this one. If you need to upload several rows, just insert the ones you need, indicate the information, and in the line number column, increase the numbers. In the Document Archive tab, make sure to enter the correct name and path of the file, as well as the document type that you need to use. Once you have your template filled with the information you need, just save the template and go to the MFL and click Load and select your file. The MFL will now start to upload the information, and if it finds any errors, it will instantly show you the log specifying where the error is. For example, here is showing us that there are some incorrect relations and also some invalid values in the field country code and in the field supplier group ID. Now I have the template corrected, so let's try to upload it again. We go to the MFL, click Load, select our file, and if the upload goes okay, the MFL will also prompt a log, but this time indicating that the uploading was finished successfully. If we go to Business World and we go to the supplier's master file, we can see that the new suppliers have been created with all the information of the template, including the document attachments. In addition to migrate master files information, the GCON4 MFL also allows you to migrate transactional data. You have the option to upload general ledger, accounts payable, or accounts receivable transactions. To do that, click on the Generate button, and from the drop-down list, you can select one of those options: posting AP, posting AR, or posting GL. Let's select GL transactions, for example. The first tab shows you all the parameters of the GL07 server process. And the second tab shows you all the relevant fields for the transactions. Select the fields you want to include in your template. So in the first tab, I'm going to select Post and File Format. And in the second tab, I'm going to select Debit Credit Flag, the invoice number, the APAR type, and APAR ID. Once you've selected the fields you need, you can also use these 3 commands at the bottom in accordance to your preference. Click the Generate button, assign a name to your file, save it, and the MFL will generate the Excel file. Once you open the Excel, you can see that the template has the same structure as the one we explained before when we uploaded master file information. It has the default value and mandatory rows at the top, and the columns with hyperlink takes you to the accepted values sheet. Start to fill the spreadsheet with the information you need to migrate. Now I have the spreadsheet filled out with the transactions I need to upload to Business World. It is important to mention that whatever we enter in the first tab of the template will overwrite the parameter in the GLO7 variant. So for example, in the variant, the period parameter is set to 2017-01, which means January of 2017, but in the MFL template, I'm indicating 2017-02, which means February of 2017. So that period will overwrite the one in the variant. Following the same logic, if a parameter is not specified in the MFL, the process will use whatever is in the variant. For the second tab, it is very important to consider the account rules in order to fill out the appropriate columns of the GL analysis. However, the MFL will validate each line of the journal with the corresponding account rule. As it was explained before, this template also validates the values included in the columns with hyperlink against the accepted values sheet. So for example, if I enter a value that is not valid, the template will validate it. Also note that in the first tab of the template, we only need to include one row per batch, and is that field the one that links the first tab and the second tab. Once you have finished filling your template, save it, go to the MFL, click on Load, select your file, and the MFL will now start to upload the information. If it finds any errors, it will instantly show you the log specifying the errors. For example, first, the transaction is not balanced, so it's telling us to check the amount field. There's also an error in the account rule, so the log is telling us that in line number 2, the transaction must have a project, and accordingly, the relation with project, which is cost center, is based on that value. And it's also telling us that there is an invalid transaction type in line number 2. Now I have the template corrected, so let's try to upload it again. Go to the MFL, click on Load, and select your file. If the upload goes okay, the MFL will also prompt a log, but this time indicating that the uploading was finished successfully. It will also indicate the order number of the GLO7. We can now go to Business World, open the Maintenance of Order Report screen, and you can see the report output of the GLO7. The MFL also allows you to upload documents attached to transactions. To do that, you first need to retrieve the transactions to which you want to link documents. Click on the Generate button, and from the drop-down list, select Transaction Document Archive. Make sure that the Document Archive tab is included in the template. And then, in this section, you can filter the transactions you want to retrieve. So let's say I want to attach documents to all the journals for a specific transaction type. So I select the tab, the field voucher type, like AQ, for example, which is a transaction type that I have in the system. Click on Generate and assign a name to your file. The Excel is going to retrieve all the AQ type journals. So now we can start filling the Document Archive tab. I have filled the information of the attachments. Please make sure to enter the correct file name and path of the file, as well as the document type that you need to use. Also note that the field that links the two tabs of the spreadsheet is the voucher number. Once you have completed the information, save the file, go to the MFL, click on Load, and select your file. The MFL will now start to upload. When it finishes, you can go to Business World and confirm that the documents have been uploaded for the transactions. So you can run a simple GL inquiry. Let's filter for the transaction type AQ. Execute the browser. Select one of the transactions we included in the template. Click on the document button, and you can see that the attachment is there. So now we have finished this video in which we have shown you how to use the GCON4 MFL as a data migration tool. Thank you very much for your attention. We hope this video has been very useful, and we encourage you to continue watching the rest of the videos. If you have any questions or queries, please go to the GCON4 MFL website. You can leave your comments or questions there, or you can write directly to this email address.